Good morning, lovelies. How are you all doing? I hope you are well. I am. It's a beautiful sunny day today, so I shall be getting out after I've made this video. I should just say as well, it's quite early. What's the time? It's 8:30 in the morning, so we might get a few bits of traffic noise. It's that time of day, isn't it? School runs and last minute getting to work and what have you. And because I only have single glazing, I do hear the street. But of course, the glazing is going to be changed. Excuse me. Yeah, the windows are going to be sorted. Late summer, I think. We haven't set an actual date yet. Anyway, we might hear some noises. Plus, there's a big property across the road from me. It's beautiful, beautiful, huge old villa, which has now been subdivided into flats. So they have communal gardens all around. Really pretty gardens. The gardeners have arrived, so we might hear lawnmowers and strimmers as well. But anyway, there we go. Right, anyway, I'm about to open a can of worms. I realise that. I'm going to talk about weight loss. Now, look, I had no intention of addressing this in a video. No intention at all. Partly because I think weight loss is one of the most divisive subjects on social media. Everybody thinks they know best. People with zero medical background think they can give people medical advice. It's, you know, I'm sure you've all seen it. But also because I wasn't going to talk about it because it's just, you know, it's part of my life that I've been quietly getting on with. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I didn't want to have, you know, my weight loss journey and all the clickbait thumbnails that go with it and all that sort of thing. It's like, look, if you're going to do something, just get on with it and do it. So, I mean, how many times have we seen YouTubers say, I'm going to lose weight, I'm doing this diet, that diet, the other diet, and then 2 months later, suddenly they're not talking about weight loss or their diet anymore, and that's because they've given up and they've gone back to their naughty old ways. So I'm really aware that it is an incredibly divisive subject. However, loads of people have been asking me about it because it's beginning to show. I mean, it's been showing for a while, I know from my tape measure. But of course, throughout the winter, it was harder to notice because of all the layers of clothes. Just before we go any further as well, I want to say very clearly, I am not asking for help or advice. I've got this nailed, and I think that's evidenced in that it's working for me. What I'm doing works for me. And that's another thing, isn't it, about diets, and this isn't a diet. I'm going to come into details in a second. I'm not following a diet, a named diet. Please don't suggest any named diets to me. The problem with these named diets is, yeah, people get great results maybe for even a year, 2 years, but then they slowly revert back to their old crappy way of eating and the weight just all goes back on. So no, please, no advice. I'm sharing this because A, I've been asked about it so much, and B, because it might help someone. You never know, it might help someone. So that all sounds a bit neggy. In fact, you know, it is a bit negative in a way, but I'm just just getting that out of the way so we're all on the same page and we're all clear about things. So it sort of started at the end of last summer. I mentioned this in my video when I talked about quitting sugar. I'll put the card for that video on the end of this video, so if you haven't seen it, because I'm aware I've got quite a few new subscribers recently. Hello, welcome. You're all very, very welcome here. So I'll pop that on the end. But yeah, the sugar thing began sort of at the end of last summer when I decided to get off those hideous energy drinks that I'd sort of slipped quietly into an addiction of. So they stopped at the end of the summer. It was the end of August, 28th of August, I think, was my last one. But that was it. And then at Christmas, I had a load of chocolate. I had gifted chocolate. I had some sweet treats I bought myself as part of my treats for a tenner. And now, in the back of my mind, by Christmas, of course, I knew that if everything worked out to plan, I knew I was moving to Swanage. I knew I was moving to the seaside. I'd known since September if it all happened. Well, even if this flat had fallen through, I mean, I would have been heartbroken because it's so perfect for me. But I would have started again. It would still have been Swanage. I had made my mind up, I'm coming to Swanage. I am going to have my beach life that I've always wanted. I've always loved being by the sea. I've always loved being in and out at the sea. So yeah, around Christmas time, pigging out on all my chocolates and sweet treats. And I thought, you know what, Vivi, you need to lose some weight. I mean, I knew anyway, of course I did, because I used to be such a slim lass. But of course, in the last sort of 10 years or so, it's a bit of a triple whammy of menopause, and I'm doing menopause without HRT. I'm doing a completely drug-free menopause, which is quite hard at times, I can tell you. That plus my knees getting worse, meaning my level of exercise has dropped. I don't walk as far, I don't walk anywhere near as far, I don't walk as fast. So my exercise has dropped off, even though I'm still very, very active. I hardly sit still for 5 minutes, but it's not that real kind of, power walking that's really burning off the calories. And also this sort of background low level sort of stress from pain, sleepless nights, just, life worries. But that stress hormone cortisol, the long acting, the chronic stress hormone, as opposed to adrenaline. Adrenaline is a fast hormone. Adrenaline's what hits when you're in a car crash. You have that surge of adrenaline. It's a stress hormone. Cortisol is, a lot of people who do night shifts, a lot of nurses suffer from too high levels of cortisol because it's a stress on the body to work at night. We're not supposed to. But a combination of those three things, cortisol really is not anybody's friend when it comes to weight gaining weight. So yeah, over the last 10 years, that weight gain from being less mobile, that background stress from pain, the cortisol, the background stress of financial worries at times, plus menopause, all happening. Yeah, the pounds went on, so I knew I had to do something about it, and I thought, right, this is it. I'm moving to the beach. I want to feel confident about, partly it's health thing as well. Okay, let's do health first. My blood pressure was creeping up too. I was still below the level at which the NHS, there are guidelines on all these things. So I was still below the level at which a doctor would then, prescribe drugs, pharmaceutical intervention to help bring that blood pressure down. But I've never been a fan of drugs, ever. In their place, if I needed a drug to save my life, of course I would take it. If I needed chemotherapy, I would do it. Of course I would. But I'm a firm believer in fixing myself first, if I can, by lifestyle changes, diet, etc., rather than just reaching for the drugs. So when I was heading that way, I thought, yeah, I don't want to have to take drugs for my blood pressure. I don't want to take drugs for cholesterol. My cholesterol is okay, but I don't want to go that route. I mean, I've just told you I've not taken any drugs during menopause, no pharmaceutical assistance with that. In fact, I'm getting warm now. The sun's really, this front window really gets the sun. I'm going to take a layer off. Excuse me. And for more of that, go to my OnlyFans page, which I don't have. Jokes, people. When I had that awful chest infection I ended up in hospital in early 2022 when they were sort of triaging me once they'd got me stabilised enough that I could talk again. And they wanted to know my prescriptions, and I said I don't have any. And so where were we? 2022, so I was 55, was I? Or 54? Early 50s, early coming towards mid. Anyway, I said I didn't have any prescriptions, and they're like, what? Most people your age have one prescription at least by now. I said, no, I don't. I try and stay healthy through other means. Anyway, the point is, I've lost my train of thought. Yes, the blood pressure was creeping up, all these things. I thought from a health point of view, yes, I need to lose weight. I don't want to become a statistic. I don't want to be one of these people that next week it's like, ooh, you're now type 2 diabetes, when I could have done something about it now. So I'm doing something about it now. But the other thing, I'll be perfectly honest with you, is vanity. Vanity. I didn't like the way I looked, and you know, I've got loads of lovely clothes that don't fit anymore. I want to wear my pretty frocks, etc., etc. But also the confidence to be in and out of the water. And I talked about this when I brought my sister's ashes down here and I had a swimming day. I really had to force myself, and I was on a really quiet beach, end of September, pretty much deserted, a couple of other people around. But I really had to force myself to shed my clothes and just go and get into the water. I mean, I had a bathing suit, I don't mean nudie. And oh my goodness, once I was in the water, it was so wonderful, it was delicious. And I thought, it's stupid, we hold ourselves back because of our bodies. And I said this at the time, and I actually got really upset at the time, thinking I nearly missed out on that wonderful thing of not just the swimming, but that moment of taking my sister's ashes out to sea with me. I was holding a handful of her, swimming out to sea, holding her above the water. Then when I got deep enough, scattered her on the sea and swam around in her ashes and just, you know, playing and laughing and crying. And I would have missed that all because I thought, oh, my body's too ugly to be seen. So that was in my mind as well. Okay, you're getting impatient now, aren't you? Like, how have you done it, Vivi? So, New Year's resolution. It was a New Year's resolution, and I said at the time, I did talk about, well, it's not so much a New Year's resolution, but a new me resolution. And I did say at the time, there's all sorts of things I'm doing, there's all sorts of things going on in the background, which I'm not necessarily going to talk about, but which are happening. And one of those, and it's a big thing, was I'm going to tackle my weight once and for all. I have not been on a diet. That's the really important thing. This is not a diet. This is just some tweaks to the way I have been eating for my whole life. And just to say as well, for new subscribers, you might not have gone back and seen any of the kitchen videos, for instance, I'm vegetarian, lifelong vegetarian. Well, in my teenage years, I became vegetarian, no fish. So it's an almost entirely plant-based diet, but I am a sucker for cheese. I do enjoy cheese. But yeah, so it's not a diet. I'm not on a diet. I haven't, someone asked, had I used any books to help? No, I haven't used any books. This is just a kind of a scientific approach using my sort of medical knowledge about how the body works, you know, how glucose works in the body. And a large part of this has been about trying to level out my blood sugar spikes. In a way, if you were to follow a diabetic's diet, if you were to eat as if you had diabetes, because in a way that's what I do, you would lose weight. So if you want to look at a book, if you want to understand, or if you want to go that route, rather than following one of these named diets, if you start to do some research and study all around diabetes and what a diabetic's diet looks like, and look into blood sugar and controlling those blood sugar spikes, that will give you some ideas. So obviously fitting in with that, I'd quit the energy drinks back at the end of the summer, but I made that decision. It was all around, it was kind of in that week between Christmas and New Year. I'm going to quit sugar completely. I'm going to completely quit sugar. And as I mentioned in my quitting sugar video, I don't think I've ever had a lot, excuse me, in terms of, I'm talking about in terms of refined sugar, because someone else said, oh, but you eat porridge in the morning, that's carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are sugar. Look, there is carbohydrate in everything. Sometimes it's a tiny amount, sometimes it's a lot. I was talking about quitting refined sugar. So sweets, chocolate, all of that. Cakes, biscuits, which I don't really indulge in anyway. Ice cream, which I do like an ice cream in the summer. Ice cream, all those processed foods, those processed sweet snacks we have. I never had a lot of them in the first place, but now absolutely none whatsoever. So I quit sugar. That was a no-brainer. I also quit bread. Now, again, bread and me, we have a funny relationship. I can quite happily go for a month, I don't eat any bread at all. And then I'll have a week where I just really fancy it, and I'm just trying to, it might be something like, I suddenly think, oh, I want a really lovely crusty, I love sourdough bread, a crusty sourdough, very lightly toasted and just dipped in olive oil. Oh, that's gorgeous. Or toasted sourdough with a creamy blue cheese on. That's another favourite. So yeah, quit bread, which most of the time is, I found, absolutely okay. Every now and again I think, oh, just for a piece of toast with butter on, oh, that would be lovely. But when I start to have the thought, I say to myself, no, don't. So bread and sugar, completely quit. Reduction, a big reduction in cheese. When you look at the sort of dietary guidelines about how much cheese we should consume in a day, or the most we should consume, it's 30 grams. People talk about a matchbox-sized piece of cheese. Cut some cheese and weigh out 30 grams. It's a tiny amount of cheese. So I was overeating cheese. So now there are many days when I don't have cheese at all. There are some days when I do have cheese. I love my pasta night. Oh, I love pasta night. I have pasta night at least once a week, sometimes 2 nights, because I have cheese on my pasta. But I always cut it. I'm going to come on to practical stuff in a second as well. I cut it. I know the size now. I'm going to come on to the measure, because I'm not counting calories, but this is all about calories essentially. But yes, now that I have done that first time of cutting it and weighing it and going, oh wow, 30 grams is really tiny, having done that visual for myself, now I don't need to weigh it. I know that if I cut, it's about 7 millimeters, your standard block of cheese that's like that size, about 7 millimeters of it is about 30 grams. So massively reduce, quit sugar, quit bread, reduce cheese. And the other thing, ultimately what this has been about is, it's good old fashioned calories in, calories out. And it really is as simple as that. But I'm not counting calories. So how are you doing it, Vivi? Essentially, I've just reduced my portion sizes. So I made some notes. I don't want to forget anything. What I did in the few days leading up to the New Year, and then the weekend after the New Year had started, I think it was the 6th and 7th of January, I dedicated that whole weekend to myself, to my health, and to how I was going to be eating moving forward. I gave myself that whole weekend. I thought, blow it for work, everything else. This is the most important thing in my life at the moment, is to look after my health. I think that's really important in terms of, if you're going to start to, if you're going to launch yourself into weight loss, is give yourself the time to plan, to do your research. I think probably a lot of diets, and like I said, this isn't a diet, go wrong because people get a book from the library or they buy a book and they sort of follow it, religiously for a week, but they haven't really understood why and what they're doing, and then they get fed up with the recipes, and then before you know it, that book's gone to the charity shop and the diet's gone to pot. So that's what I mean, is rather than launching yourself headlong into something, do your research first. So over those days and then that weekend, again, really back to basics. So all of my recipes, so whether it's one of my soups or fasolada or chili or the bolognese I make or the various different curries I make a lot of different curries. I love it. This is what I spent my entire time doing. So for example, let's say my fasolada, my Greek bean stew. I wrote down a list of all the ingredients I put into it and the rough quantities. So it's usually like 3 big carrots, 3 stalks of celery, the equivalent of a tin of beans, a tin of tomatoes, So I wrote down every ingredient, and then I wrote down their calorific value for every single ingredient, totted it all up, and I thought, right, okay, so if I make my usual fasolada that I've been making for years and that I love and I'm not giving up, because that was the point. I didn't want to change what I was eating particularly, because I do eat really good healthy food. I eat from scratch. I don't eat processed foods, apart from, cheese is a processed food and yogurt. But yeah, I don't eat junk, which is also why it's so annoying. It's like I see people eating junk and they're slimmer than me. I don't eat junk and yet I'm putting the weight on. It's not fair. Get that thought out of your head as well. Stop comparing yourself to other people and stop saying how unfair it is that you're fat. You're fat. Deal with it. That's what I'm doing. I don't mean that in a horrible way, but you can spend all your energy saying it's so unfair when actually, well, life's not fair anyway, but you have the power to do something about it. It's not like the unfairness of economics. Economics are unfair. But your size, unless there's a medical condition which is causing it, then that is kind of unfair. But anyway, yes, so I wanted to eat my same foods. So for instance, with fasolada, worked out the ingredients and I thought, okay, so if I serve that up as 4 portions, which is what I normally do, get 4 portions out of it, that's going to work out at 300 calories per portion. Now you might think, well, actually 300 calories for a main meal isn't that much. But then if you have a slice of bread to mop up the juice afterwards, and you might have, let's say you have a pudding of yogurt and berries afterwards, and that's going to add another 150. Before you know it, that meal time could have added up to about 600 calories. And just to reiterate, yes, it's about the calories, but I do not count calories now. I didn't want to get into counting every calorie. I didn't want to become obsessive like that. That's really important too. So the fasolada is 300 calories a portion, 4 portions. If I divide it into 6 portions, then suddenly each portion is only 200 calories. Okay, that's what I'll do. I'll make my usual fasolada, but I'll make it 6 portions instead of 4. Simple as that. To visually help myself, because I'm very visual, as I mentioned with the cutting that portion of cheese, part of that weekend as well, I weighed and measured a lot of stuff. Now I'm getting chilly. I weighed and measured a lot of stuff. So I looked up online, what's the standard portion for, say, pasta? And I only eat whole wheat pasta. I've never eaten white of anything. I don't eat white rice, don't eat white bread, don't eat white pasta. It's always the whole wheat. So what is a standard portion of whole wheat pasta? I looked that up. I can't remember off the top of my head. It might have been something like 75 grams. So I weighed that out to see what it looked like, and I thought, I wonder if I could get away with 50 grams. So I weighed out 50 grams and I looked at it, I thought, actually that looks like enough. So having weighed it and worked out what are the calories for 50 grams of pasta. I then put it into one of my measuring cups. And this has been really, really useful for me. So 1 cup of pasta is about 50 grams, and that is, I can't remember the calorific amount off the top of my head. See, I actually can't remember the calories now in anything because I don't count them. But I know that 1 cup of pasta is going to keep, when I worked out the calories, that's low enough to help me lose weight, but it's still a decent sized portion that I'm not going to feel hungry. So I did that with a lot of things. So for instance, my porridge, I measured it with the cup. So I use a half cup of porridge. Again, that's slightly below guidelines. The guideline, it's somewhere between a half and it's more like 2/3 of a cup. But I've gone with half a cup of porridge, half a cup of oats, the raw oats, 1 cup of oat milk. And that's it. And I know that plus my cinnamon, I know this one off by heart, that's 264 calories. So it's a 264 calorie breakfast that fills me up and keeps me going all day. Love it. So yeah, a whole weekend. I've got a little notebook. I keep pointing over there because the bureau is there. My little notebook is in that. So over the course of that weekend, I worked out the calorie contents for all of my myriad recipes. I actually quite enjoyed it because I like maths. And then worked out, well, if I make it 5 portions or 6 portions, some things I only had to make it into 5 portions, some into 6, wrote all of that down. Then with ingredient things, so, pasta, rice, nuts, seeds, porridge, whatever, I did it all by cups. I weighed it first, put it into a cup. How much of a cup does it fill? Also using nutritional guidelines online, as in what your daily allowance ought to be or not to be. And so now, literally within a couple of weeks, I wasn't thinking about numbers anymore. I was just getting on with cooking my usual food. And like I said, it's all the food I've been eating for years anyway, but just reducing those portion size. I'm mentioning this whole thing about the weighing out initially, the weighing it out and then putting it into cup sizes, just because I think if the start of every day, if you're worried about the number of calories, and if you're a scratch cook, you see, the thing is, if you buy processed food, the calories are on the packet, aren't they? And all the other horrible, nasty added ingredients that you don't want in your diet. So if you're a scratch cook like me, the thought of having to calculate calories of every meal, that's 3 meals a day, is mind-numbing, plus snacks. So I have 3 meals a day and numerous snacks. That's enough to put anyone off after a couple of weeks. So I think that early stage of doing my research and doing all my weighing and measuring and visualizing and note making, it's meant that I don't have to think about it at all. I know that any one of my recipes in the new portion sizes, I know that whatever I eat now, I know that I'm going to be in that calorie number that is, I think, I can't remember, it's the recommended number of calories for a woman my sort of age, with not doing any specific exercise, but like I said, I'm always on the go, is something like 1,800 calories a day. A 500 calorie deficit a day leads to 1 pound weight loss a week. I'll tell you about the weight loss in a second as well. I've done much more than that, much more than a pound a week, which has been surprising. And I kept thinking, oh no, this is too much. And it's, in the first couple of weeks, I lost 4 pounds a week, which was crazy. But then it settled down and I'm losing an average of 2.5 pounds a week, which is great. It's absolutely great. And, I'm not going hungry. It is quite a reduced calorie intake, so I've been really careful as well in my planning of my meals. In that initial planning stage, this is what I mean about planning, is to make sure every day is nutritionally complete. So this is why I keep, mentioning it's not a diet, and I don't like those diets that cut out whole food groups. So for instance, the sugar, I don't have refined sugar, but I still have some sugar. I have this sugar in fruit and vegetables, sugar in all of it. So I still have that sugar. So each day I have carbohydrates, I have fats, I have protein, I have, you know, all my sort of vitamins and minerals and all those micronutrients. So it's a very balanced diet. I just don't think about it. I don't have to think about it because of doing that initial research. I'm filming this in May. I think it's about May the 14th, about halfway through May. I'm going to slot this in amongst the videos. I've been filming so much that I think my videos are now about, by the time you see them, they'll be 3 weeks behind, which is bonkers. But there we go. I'll slot this one in. I'm halfway through May, so I've been at it for 4.5 months, and I've lost 50 pounds, which is bonkers. I'm saying it in pounds because I know a lot of people around the world do it in pounds. In the UK, we talk in stones and pounds. So I'm round about the 4 stone mark. 4 stone in 4.5 months is mad and fantastic. So look, it's doable. This has not been at all stressful. I'm not hungry. I don't crave any. No, I do. Every now and again, I crave that sourdough with some butter on it, toast. But then I think even before this year, I have food cravings. I think we all have food cravings from time to time. There's always something you suddenly think, oh, I fancy that. I just want to get that one last note because I'm going to wrap up soon and I don't want to forget that. Yeah, but otherwise, you know, perfectly happy. People have said, you know, how do I feel on it all? I seem to have more energy. I think part of the energy thing, I think, is psychological, because I'm still, oh my goodness, after the first couple of nights here when I slept so well, my sleep is back to rubbish. I'm still doing my sleep. I'm still doing my New Year's resolution for my sleep of in bed by 11 at the latest. Try to get up at 7, sometimes it's more like 8, but I'm still, you know, but yeah, I'm back to waking up every couple of hours. But it doesn't matter, I don't let it stress me. The psychological effect, though, can't be underrated. So people have said, do you feel more energised by it? So I still feel tired, but that's the sleep thing, and living with chronic pain is exhausting, but yeah, I do feel more energised, and I think it is a combination of the physical fact of getting rid of weight. It's partly just because of the move has just made me so blimmin' happy. That's like, wow, tons of energy. But this psychology of it is so important, that I know I'm doing a really good thing for my body, for my health. I know I'm doing a really good thing for the NHS, that I'm hopefully not going to be a statistic for them to deal with. But also just that psychology of when I look, I mean, I try not to look in the mirror. The funny thing about buying that wardrobe, full-length mirror, I don't, when I look in the mirror, I don't recoil in horror anymore. You know, I've still got a way to go. There's still some weight to lose. But yeah, the psychology of not being repulsed by myself quite so much, that gives me energy. So that's great. It's a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win-win all around. And the last thing to say, really, I suppose, on it all is I do have a goal weight in mind, and it's the weight that I was when I was 25. Will I ever get back to that? Well, why not? So when I reach my goal weight, what will be interesting then will be, and I think I can reach my goal weight the way it's been going, I think by September. I mean, I said it's been about £2.5 weight loss per week. In the first couple of months, it was regularly 3.5 pounds, and it's gone to about 2.5. And it does that, weight loss does slow down a bit. If it carries on like this, maybe by the end of September, certainly by the end of the year, I hope to be the weight I was when I was in my 20s. Get back into the clothes I was in my 20s. Some lovely things. But what I will need to do then is maintain it. So actually to maintain it, I'll have to add some calories back into my diet, which is going to be really weird. I was calculating it. Did I write it down somewhere? I was thinking about this last night because I'm looking at, got so many scraps of paper notes. Oh, there we go. Because someone had asked me in comments last night about it. I think I'm going to have to add back about 300 or 400 calories in order to maintain. So I'll probably start by adding in 300 calories a day and see if that's enough to maintain my weight, because I don't want to lose too much. I don't want to go below that weight because I was really slim then. If 300 is enough, great. If it's not, if I lose half a pound that week, then I'll go, oh, okay, I'll make it 350, 400. But anyway, that's a long, long way in the future. Well, it's not that long, is it? It's tail end of this year. So there we go. That's how I've done it. No magic, no magic bullet, as it were. No named diet, no celebrity diet, no weird and wonderful recipes, no replacing meals with shakes and doing weird stuff. Just my normal food, smaller portions, quit refined sugar, quit bread, shrink the portions, shrink the quantity of cheese I eat. £50 in 4.5 months. It's amazing. I'm really, really happy and I'm proud of myself. I don't often do that proud thing, but on this occasion I am really proud of myself because it does take discipline initially, and planning and thought and all that thing. If you're going to have a go, try that thing with weighing stuff and measuring it and doing the cup thing, so that you're not then forever counting calories. You're literally just using a cup, and with your own recipes as well. Try what I did, work out the calories for your own recipe, and then work out how you need to get more portions out of it. Or don't even do the calorie counting. If you make fasolada, for example, if you make a chili con carne every Saturday night and it serves 4, make it serve 6. And if you do that with all your evening meals, see at the end of a week you might have lost a pound if you don't want to do all the weighing and measuring and research. I think it was worth it. So yeah, it took discipline initially, but the rest of the time, it's mostly easy, but every now and again there's that discipline. I walked past, I was out and about the other day and I walked past somewhere and they'd obviously just had some bread come out of the oven, and that smell, I was salivating walking down the street, and I thought to myself, oh, you've done so well. You've done so well with the weight loss. Why don't you go and get yourself just a little bun and have it with your soup at lunchtime? And I didn't. I just thought it's not worth it. It's not worth getting on that slippery slope back to, oh, just one won't hurt. So yeah, discipline. I am very, very disciplined and boringly disciplined. Right, I hoped this would be a quicker one today. It's not. But I think it's worth explaining everything because this is our health. This is so important. And I think folk get so bogged down in these various diets when actually a healthy balanced diet, we hear it all the time, don't we? I mean, what is a healthy balanced diet? A healthy balanced diet is where you're getting all your different food groups, you're getting all your vitamins and minerals, you're eating good whole foods, cooking from scratch. That's a healthy balanced diet, but just shrink the amount you have on the plate. And it works. I'm a living, breathing example. There's no smoke and mirrors, there's no tricks, there's just the discipline of doing it. All right, lovelies, I will see you all again really soon. I can't remember what the next one will be. It's already in the can. As I said, I'm making this as a little extra to slot in to answer everybody's queries about how have I done it? The old-fashioned way. Calories in, calories out. Until the next one, lovelies, please take care, and I will see you really soon. Cheerio.